Jeff.
Call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cockrell.
Here.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Denton.
Here.
Mr. Majors.
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
Yes. Next item will be the moment of silence by Mr. Majors.
As we begin this meeting, let us pause for a 60-second moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or engage in any other silent activity. Thank you.
Next item, number 3, the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Deputy Board Clerk, Cheryl Kelly.
Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item, formal adoption of the agenda. Any discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cockrell.
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Denton.
Yes.
Mr. Majors.
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
Yes. Next item, number 5, will be the approval of the June 25th regular board meeting minutes. Discussion.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cockrell.
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Denton.
Yes.
Mr. Majors.
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
Yes. Next item, number 6, Mr. Tolomeo.
Good evening. I'm here to bring to you guys the PSO award for 2017 Best School in Construction for energy efficiency. We installed 444 tons of high efficiency cooling, saving the district, and did some lighting upgrades, saving the district's 160,000 kilowatt hours a year. They couldn't make it. They wanted to be here tonight, and but they had some emergency happen, so I'm here to present it myself.
But you got the money, right?
We got the money last year.
There we go.
So it's already checked cleared and everything.
The emergency wasn't at one of our schools, was it?
No, it wasn't. They had a personal emergency.
Mr. Tolomeo, I just wanted to ask you a question about, I know that we do a great job as a school district related to media out to our public. This is really a great thing to let our parents know that we're doing everything we can to save dollars so that we can put those monies into the classroom and do what we need to be doing for our students. So I'm sure that we're doing that, but I'm just inquiring about that as to whether or not that might be something that is already on or in the works.
We actually just got notified about this like last week, and we put it on the board agenda really quickly. So I'm sure that our communications department will do everything that they can.
This is a good thing, so thank you.
Yes, it's a very good thing. We get this one-time money, and we are trying everything we can to make it beneficial and economy for our students.
So with these types of buildings, is this something that has now been like our standard of building code or structure or preferences as we move forward?
It's not a standard of the building code. It is one of our standards as a district. We install high efficiency rooftop units. All hallway lights, all exterior lights are all LEDs.
Cool.
And anything with a high bay that requires us to do lifts is an LED fixture.
Okay.
Maintenance wise, energy efficiency wise, we're doing everything we can to make it more productive for everybody.
Great job. Thank you.
Mr. Tolomeo, you said one-time monies. Is this the case on anytime we build a new building, it would be one-time monies, or is it just a one-shot forever?
Well, this is bond fund,
Uh-huh.
so it's one-time money as in we get this one time to build a new building or retrofitted, like at Sequoia, we retrofitted all the hallway lights to be LED. So with that one-time money, we bought LED lights, or in the new cafeteria, we installed high-efficiency units. That one-time money is working for us in years to come as those LEDs continue to burn or the rooftop units continue to run. They're always energy efficient.
Would we be able to get one-time monies again, like if we built a new middle school?
Yes,
And same type deal?
yes. And any,
There.
Right.
Okay. So it could happen again once we build another building, we could get
yes.
even, okay.
But
Yeah,
tip-
certain buildings qualify, others do not.
Okay.
It has to be a large enough addition to even qualify. So the high school qualified, but the freshman academy, which is slightly smaller than the high school, didn't qualify for a rebate this time. We also are working with PSO. We install a lightweight concrete roof deck, which increases our insulation of the building, and we're trying to get that to be part of their standard to help us with that cost.
Mr. Ptolomeo, when we replace lighting, et cetera, is such as you had mentioned about at Sequoia, one of the things that we have done in the past historically is use a building fund or general fund to do some of those projects. I mean, we may have had some additional bond fund monies, but I think the thing that this really helps us to do is if we're participating in those programs, it does allow us to free up dollars elsewhere in the general fund or the building fund where we were expending money. So I know of course, along with all of us up here, appreciate very much everything that we are doing as a district.
Well, thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right. Next item, comments from the public. We have none. Next item will be 8.0, the approval of the consent agenda items. Any discussion or questions?
Move approval of the general consent items 8 through 23.
Second?
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item, 24. Dr. Dunlap, I'm going to assume that's you, but there was not a name with it, I don't.
I believe it's me. Okay, so this item is the first presentation or reading of the superintendent evaluation. As you remember, last year we changed to the OSSBA evaluation form, and one of the benefits of that form is that it allowed us to tweak it and make it make sense for our district, to really individualize it. So this is the first attempt to really start individualizing that. I encourage all the board members to really take a close look at it, see if there's areas where we have gaps, and we'll take that feedback in, and if it needs, if we need to have a second reading in the next board meeting, there's no hurry in this. We want to make sure we get it right. But this is our attempt to get closer and closer to creating goals for me and for the leadership team that lead the direction that the board intends.
Dr. Dunlop, I want to thank you and certainly the leadership team too during our retreat and having those conversations that we need to have to get better. And I think that it's going to make us more effective as an organization because of it. So thank you very much.
Any more discussion or questions? All right, thank you. Next item, operations, Mr. Ptolomeo.
Good evening. I'm here to request your approval for Central Main window replacement in the amount of $344,902 from Binswinger Glass.
Are these the windows from the chamber and all that?
This is the windows across
What's
the
the
whole
front?
building.
But no one from the chamber's here to thank you for this?
No, sir.
They were here to tell us how mad they were at us when they leaked. Sorry.
Move approval.
Second.
Where's the media at when you need them?
We got a
Second.
motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item, 26, Mr. Ptolomeo.
I'm here to seek your approval of the child nutrition renovation for $530,539 to Key Construction. And this will be paid for between bond funds and child nutrition funds. We're doing a small restroom for maintenance within their maintenance shop, and that will be paid for with bond funds.
Questions or discussion?
Go ahead.
Make a motion to approve?
Second?
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes?
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item, 27, Mr. Tolomeo.
I am here to seek your approval for PAC mechanical upgrades in the amount of $245,054.
Questions?
Move approval?
Second?
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes?
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item, 28.
Good evening, Mr. Allen, Dr. Dunlap, members of the board. I'm filling in tonight for Ms. Peterson, Ms. James. We've been discussing with you at subcommittee our student handbooks, and so we have finished with revising them and having them ready for your approval. So as you recall, every year we go through, update, make sure they're all current with all the policies, and then they are available to students on the internet, and then we print any copies for students who may not have access to the internet.
Well, I want to compliment you and all of the staff. It was indicated that we are ADA compliant on all
Yes,
of those.
that's our
a really
communications
good
team.
thing.
That was awesome, yes.
And the other thing that I want to compliment you and the staff on is just over the period of time, all of the improvements that have been made on the student handbook. It's so much more user-friendly, easy to access by our community or parents. And so thank you for that.
Absolutely. It's been a great team effort, so thank you. I'll share that with them.
Questions?
Make a motion to approve?
Second?
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Ms. Enif.
Good evening. We are officially finished with the end of the 17-18 school year, and I can go through the slides and go over them, but just some general comments with how we ended up the year. You know, this was a very unstable year for us. We didn't know really how the overall state budget was going to how it was going to affect our district and public education in general. But I will say I'm very pleased with how the district ended up financially. We're in a very good, strong, stable position going into the next school year. And that's in large part due to our district leadership, the board, and really just the district philosophy behind our fiscal practices and being conservative and really smart spending. So state aid ended up at $3,032.20 per weighted ADM. That was up, I think, 40 cents from the midterm adjustment. We are waiting to see what our allocation will be for the 18-19 school year. That has not been released. Obviously, that number is going to look very, very different for this next school year with the House Bill 1023 double X raises going into effect. So we are eagerly anticipating what that will look like and how that will affect our overall budget, because it will be a game changer for us. Building fund, obviously our ad valorem came in very strong, which is always a good thing to see. In alignment with Mr. Tolomeo's presentation on how that affects building fund, Ms. Kelly, this is a very, very small, dedicated source of revenue, so anything that we can do as a district with those rebates and those incentives goes to really alleviate a lot of pressure that's put on building fund. Child nutrition, they're extremely self-sufficient and continue to grow in their programs and their revenue collections. And you can see really in general fund where we came out ahead in salaries and benefits, which is our largest category of expenditures. And as we finish up the year, we are working on end-of-year reports to finalize our cash ending fund balance and be working through the CAFR and audit process for our audited financials. But I expect a stable ending fund balance with where we ended up in 2017.
Which really says a lot when you think about what we've been through as an organization, and that our fund balance remains very close. In fact, it was above 2015 currently as it looks. And so, as you mentioned, Natalie, which you did a great job of saying, it's due to our staff and the philosophy that we're undertaking, and it's very important to have the right conversations, and I believe we've been doing that. But I appreciate it very much. It says a lot.
None of how we ended up financially did not happen by accident. It was very deliberate, and we make very deliberate choices as a district to be smart with our spending and conservative, and make sure our money goes to the right places and is spent where it really needs to be spent.
Ms. Enoff, so the raises are happening, correct?
That is correct.
And the state's going to fund them, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
The referendum has been defeated, and
Shall we talk about that in open session, so when people watch this, they know that?
Well, and Natalie brought up a really good point when she said it's going to, when we look at our budgets next year, when all this appears on the screen and suddenly there's a big jump in revenue, it looks like we are all flush with all this money. To be clear that all of this is going into salaries. This does not mean more spending in the classroom. This does not mean we're getting more ADM. This doesn't mean that suddenly we're competing with the regional average. This is only half the battle. This is the battle about trying to get our teachers and our support staff a competitive salary. But this is just one of the battles in the overall war to make sure that we raise Oklahoma funding to a level that it should be.
And that's the argument right now is we need to direct our focus more towards operational funds back into funds that aren't dedicated towards salaries and benefits. We are supposed to be seeing a small allocation for textbooks, which we have not seen in 3 or 4 years. And that's being funded out of GR revenue. And so it'll be interesting to see how those allocations come out for us.
And it will be interesting to see the election and see how that impacts those that are newly elected to the legislature and where we go from there. Mm-hmm.
Ms. Kearns, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask you a question.
But I am going to.
But, and Natalie as well, we had meetings in our subcommittee, and we spoke to the point of getting our teachers to be the highest paid in the area. How much would that take in additional monies? Were we talking on that at that time with our scale?
With our scale, what we talked about was the goal for Broken Arrow eventually is to fully fund the state minimum base salary plus 100% TRS, which would cost this district about $800,000 additional reoccurring costs.
Yeah, but when we also talked about our teachers being the highest paid in this area. That would make them 800,000.
Yeah, because at this time, the only school districts that are able to do that are on Oklahoma City side,
Yeah.
where there's no Tulsa County school districts that are able to do that. So as a team, we've been discussing, it's hard this year whenever you're looking at, we haven't seen the formula at all.
Right.
We don't know what they're going to do or if they're going to, right now it's all magical land. So until we see it, we don't know that they're going to fully fund this bill, but hopefully they do. And then when you have the numbers, then I think we can make a concrete plan to make steps to that goal in a decent amount.
I think it would be really interesting if it wasn't fully funded. That would set up a new dialogue.
Yes. Interesting is a nice word.
Extended summer?
I think one of the most important things that what we've heard from COSA and OSSBA regarding the teacher raises is that it is supposed to be fully funded, meaning all obligations, all payroll burdens, everything, PRS, the whole thing is supposed to be fully funded. That was supposed to be written that way in the law, and you know, the wonderful accountants that they have and the legislator, they were supposed to have figured that out. And so I think that's going to be very important to make sure that school districts aren't left holding the bag with some of the extra costs.
Was there a court ruling or opinion that said that they had to fund that or something to that effect? Was it a court ruling or judge that said something?
It said the rates had to go
Yeah.
into effect regardless of the referendum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Oklahoma Supreme Court.
Okay.
It was in
Yeah,
the
decision.
legislation.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's also been a little bit of conversation around the whole, the opponents of this had said, well, but it's only funded for 1 year, and then it goes to roads and bridges, or a big portion, it was the
Don't they
gas
take
tax.
that money back out from those?
So, yeah, it's basically they're just
Shifting
shifting
money.
money. So all the general revenue that initially was allocated for roads and bridges now will go back into education in place of the money that they're taking. So they're just swapping money. It's
Well, I would like us to get to where we are the highest paid in this area as soon as possible, if we get the funding like we hope. You know, we hope we get it. So hopefully that's something we can, as a board, figure out how to make that happen sooner rather than later. So. Discussions? Okay, next item, number 30.
All right, my next item is the activity fund reports as of the end of June. Receipts total $7,805,000. Disbursements total $7,596,000 with an ending cash balance of $2,975,000.
Ms. Ena, just for clarification, the weights applied are based on the number of students in that building, and then it's determined how much?
I'm sorry, can you?
Okay, well, I probably didn't state that quite correctly. Okay, when a school building opens, we basically fund a portion of that activity account to start. Is that correct?
That's correct. Based on the number of students, they're given a startup amount of X number of dollars.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't ask that exactly correctly, so.
Questions?
The next item, treasurer's reports as of the end of June. Cash balances reflect a total of $76,735,000 in assets. Investment ledger shows district investments of $55,969,000. Collateral report shows a total of $46,966,000 in collateral pledged, and deposits requiring collateral total $31,831,000, with an available balance of collateral in the amount of $15,136,000.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Ms. Metabalas. I'll spend some money now.
My first item is the encumbrance report for the FY19 school year. So this is showing encumbrances of $4,012,266.39 for the period of time July 1 through July 5th.
Questions?
Move approval.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item, Ms.
And
Metabalas.
normally you would see a change order report to go along with that, but because it's so early in the year, there are no change orders to ask you to approve tonight for the FY19 part. The next item is the change order report. This was the last one for the FY18 year. June 21st through June 30th, showing a decrease of $651,569.20.
Move approval.
Second?
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item, new business. We have none. Item 35, move to executive session.
Make a motion to move to executive session?
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Thank you.